In the latest chapter of the One Punch Man manga, after Tatsumaki had thrown her spear of light down into the earth to destroy the Monster King Orochi, she realized that at the moment she delivered the final blow, there was a warp in the space below that swallowed someone up. They must have moved through another dimension, and then she says, "Dimensional travel, could it be?" Signifying that she knows that Blast has dimensional travel capabilities and that he may have actually come in to save Flashy Flash, since that's actually who they were talking about being stuck underground. First, we saw his superior strength as he came in to rescue Tatsumaki in her flashback, blowing a hole through a monster like it was nothing, so he obviously has superhuman strength. And then we saw him appear to meet Saitama, Flashy Flash, and a little monster that was traveling with them, and ask them had they taken the deal yet with the monster god. He picked up the dark cube like it was nothing, the dark cube that Saitama also could pick up like it was nothing, but we saw when Saitama threw it behind him, it just like slammed into the ground, kind of like DBZ weighted clothing. Like, this thing is super heavy, and also the monster with them tried to lift it up but couldn't, but Blast comes in, just picks it up like it's easy, so he's obviously insanely strong. I don't know if he's on the same power as Saitama, but that's obviously only just one of his abilities, right? So he has dimensional travel. We saw him travel through a black hole, and I guess we kind of get a name for it here, is that it's dimensional travel. The interesting thing about that is it's very clear that the monster god is in some sort of other dimension, and the black cube is a transmitter which allows you to, I guess, access that other dimension. So even when Blast came and he's talking to Saitama and Flashy Flash, he said where we are now, it really wasn't like on Earth. It was, I guess, some sort of like halfway dimension, because he said time is moving slow here and we got to get out of here. So he says that he's been traveling around collecting these cubes. I guess he doesn't want more people taking the deal from the monster god, and then he like tosses the cube into this like little warped pocket dimension that he creates out of his finger like it's nothing. So he has really solid control over dimensional travel and pocket dimensions and things like that, because he teleports in himself, he teleports the black cube into this like tiny little flat dimension that he creates with his finger, and then he teleports Saitama and Flashy Flash and the monster and himself all out of there all at once. So it didn't really seem to be too much strain on his body. It seems like he has complete and utter control over this traveling mechanism. Now, why does Tatsumaki even know about that? I don't know, because the only real memory we've seen of hers acknowledging Blast and seeing Blast was in her flashback when she was a child. So he didn't show any dimensional travel abilities back then, but somehow she knows about it, so maybe there's more story here to Tatsumaki and Blast. Maybe they're connected even more than we've seen so far. So the data book suggests that he can shoot lasers out of his eyes and control armies of robots, but it doesn't really appear like that's the case unless he like is God himself and he can just basically do anything. I mean, dimensional travel and super speed and super strength is very impressive. We saw these even faster than Flashy Flash. Flashy Flash used maximum speed, and Blast just appeared right behind him and told him calm down a bit. And by the way, the memes for that panel are just absolutely hysterical. So as far as we know, dimensional travel, super speed, and super strength, and we haven't seen any other heroes, to my recollection, be able to travel through dimensions, or villains even for that matter. Like, the whole idea and concept of dimensional travel is not a concept that they've touched on in the One Punch Man universe. We've seen it in stuff like Dragon Ball Z, there's all sorts of different dimensions, and Naruto, they can use Kamui and everything, and like travel to their own like little pocket dimensions and things like that, but we haven't seen any of that concept here in One Punch Man. So for a character to have that kind of capability, obviously it's going to put him way beyond the rest, but that on its own is not going to make you the #1 S-rank hero. So beyond his super speed and super strength, on top of that, he probably has some more abilities as well. And the reason that I find this fascinating is we get introduced to the monster god who's in his own little dimension. He's possibly imprisoned there, potentially even because of Blast. They still haven't explained that yet. But Blast also can dimensionally travel as well. So say Saitama is the strongest person on the entire planet, potentially even the universe. What about other dimensions? So I kind of like this because it's opening up the possibilities for the future for other dimensions and creatures and beings that potentially could give Saitama or Earth's defenders a big problem in the future. It's a very good writing point in my opinion, because Murata is like essentially like opening the door for the future of One Punch Man to go as wide as he wants it. As long as there's more dimensions, he can always bring in more powerful enemies. And this monster god, who knows what he's capable of, who Who knows if he's the strongest being in the entire One Punch Man universe, or if there's even beings more powerful than him. On the other hand, it's been my theory, and I think a lot of other fans have had the same theory as well, that the monster god, since he can grant people powers, he perhaps is the source of everyone's superpowers in the One Punch Man universe. And if Saitama defeats him in the end, Saitama very well may lose his powers, and that may be the very end of the series as well. Unfortunately, at this point, we still don't have the conclusion to see what is happening with Blast and Saitama. Is Blast taking them to some other dimension or some other part of Earth where he can explain to them everything about the monster god and what's going on? I really hope that's the case. It could also be that, I guess, because time was moving slower there, that a lot of the battle above had already happened and they were kind of like in the room of spirit and time at that point. So some huge thing could happen right here between Saitama, Flashy Flash, and Blast. There could be like a battle or something that happens, and by the time he takes them back to planet Earth, like only an hour has passed or something like that. And we've seen that the monster cadre are fighting the S-rank heroes now, so this is the reasoning for why Saitama isn't fighting the monster cadre right now. But what I'm saying is, maybe in Blast Pocket Dimension, time travels very differently, just like how when he picked up the cube. That's a possibility as well, meaning that we could get this entire like mini arc within the arc that we're currently in, where Blast is communicating with Saitama, or they potentially fight some enemy together. A lot could happen here, and Murata could take it so many different directions. Now, we still don't know too much about the cube. Why are they there on Earth? The only reason we know that Blast is collecting them is because he says he's collecting it as a hobby. Even he does his hero job as a hobby. So we still don't even really know Blast's true intentions as well, but trying to stop the monster god from giving the deal to Saitama and Flashy Flash, he seems to have good intentions. The monster god does not seem like a pleasant guy or a good character by any means. In fact, most of the powers that we've seen him bestow onto characters in the One Punch Man universe have been villains. I just find it peculiar that if Blast is the #1 hero and he's trying to stop the world from destruction from the monster god, why is he only just collecting these as a hobby? Like, why is it a hobby if you're trying to prevent people from taking this deal? There's still so many questions that we have to have answered here in this manga, but that's why the fandom for One Punch Man is going absolutely crazy right now. There's so much theory crafting and shocking revelations like almost every chapter that it's such a fun manga to talk about. Even just the entire concept of the black holes, right? Like, we've seen some from Blast, he can teleport with black holes, and he presses his hands together, creates this like infinity symbol, which kind of generates these black holes. Like, why is Murata focusing on black holes for this character? I think it's because it's just such a mysterious part of the universe, and Murata is like purposefully making Blast super mysterious, kind of ties in with black holes. It doesn't really explain interdimensional travel or his powers by any means, but we still don't really even know that much about black holes. Some physicists theorize that if you go through a black hole, you'll come out into another dimension or another universe or something like that, and I think that's why Murata loves playing with this whole concept. Is Blast going to use black holes as attacks? Like, can he just like create a black hole inside of someone and it just crushes them instantly? Like, the possibilities for this character are really endless. Now, we actually have seen one reference to black holes in the One Punch Man anime, and that's when Saitama was on Boros' ship. He's fighting the alien Gyurgenshoop, who is able to control gravity using his telekinetic powers, and at one point he talks to Saitama and he says, "Don't you have any idea what a black hole is?" Trying to reference that, like, I guess this is the power of a black hole, although obviously a black hole would be way stronger than that, so like maybe that's just a super small scale. So if Blast could use powers like that, but like on a way greater scale, it would be crazy exciting, especially if he could just flatten any enemies that would be coming at him. If he could create the power of a black hole surrounding him and it would just crush everything in his presence, that's a pretty incredible power to have. Who knows, maybe we'll get some explanation, like the reason for his speed and strength is because he's so resistant to black holes. It's almost like the gravity chamber, right? What if his power is that he can make the surrounding area like 1,000 times Earth's gravity, and he could walk around in it like it's nothing? Probably the only other person that could do that would be Saitama, but that could explain why like he's adapted and got so strong in order to compensate for the black hole power. Like, almost as if he's been training at 1,000 times Earth's gravity, and that's how he got got so strong and so fast, because once he takes it off, he can move at just light speed, right? So it kind of feels like with the Room of Spirit and time traveling differently, and this whole concept of gravity, it's kind of like, feels like it's taking elements of Dragon Ball Z. In fact, a lot of people even say that Blast even looks like Android 16, which I don't think so too much. But Murata is a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z, and he does draw their characters sometimes, and they look amazing when he does. Anyways, that's all I have for this video until we get more information. Blast is very much still a mystery, but now we know that he can travel dimensionally, and that really opens up the doors for a lot of speculation. So I thought I'd make an update video and talk about what we know about Blast so far. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up, comment down below, and I'll talk to you on the next video.